Mike Tyson is one of those very few athletes that, quite honestly, people just can't get enough of. To the point where a short clip comes out of him hitting some pads and the internet just loses its mind. Shortly after that, he tells everyone he's back and that he's going to be fighting Roy Jones Jr. So the fight happens and people overall are pretty happy with it. Yeah, sure, they didn't like the fact that there wasn't technically a winner, but people just loved seeing Mike back in the ring again. After his comeback fight with Roy Jones Jr., rumors started flying about who he was going to be fighting next. Finally, two names basically came up, one being Logan Paul and the other being Jake Paul. So after a little bit of time, it seemed like it was going to be Iron Mike versus the Problem Child fighting in 2022. The two were set to take home about $25 million apiece, but I've heard upwards of $100 million. So what happened, and is Mike done fighting? Negotiation fell through for the fight with Jake Paul and doesn't seem to be happening. It just doesn't seem like Mike's interested in it anymore. And when you start looking at why that could be, a few things kind of come into place from my research. One, Mike doesn't want to go through that kind of level of training, getting ready for a fight like that, if he doesn't feel like he's up to it, or if it's not the kind of fight that he really is excited about. The other side of it is that I've also read that Mike, well, he seems like he kind of looked at the contract and started adding some numbers up, and they didn't add up for him. So that tells me there's a few things going on here that just made Mike say, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to walk away. A couple statements he's made that have really backed up this kind of research I've done are as such. I'm not even interested in doing this stuff. It was fun at first. If it was back when I first started, yes, and we were both fighting on the same card and both active, yeah, we could do it. But it just turned bad, and it didn't turn out right. Like I said, the other side of this just seems to be some financial elements to this that he just didn't like. Quote from him was, "People made it financial and the fun went out of it." So that just kind of amplifies this idea that Mike started looking at things and he just didn't like the way it looked. So is Mike done completely now with fighting? Not just fighting Jake Paul, but done fighting altogether? This is what he had to say recently. He said, "I don't know. Guys want to fight me for $100 million bucks. I don't think I'll ever do stuff like this anymore." And quite frankly, I don't blame Mike. He's got a family, he's got a budding business, and I think that this is probably the best for him for his long-term health. You gotta love Mike Tyson, true American icon. And with that said, we wish you all the best, Mike.